Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 48, Letting Go to Grow. So in keeping with the theme this month about living on purpose, and hopefully within your purpose, this week I want to get into what we need to let go of to grow. Because all this great stuff we've been talking about, like using your gifts, embracing your passions, following your dreams, getting into alignment with who you really are, well, none of that's going to happen unless we do a few things first. So in this episode, I want to get down into what resistance to change is all about. And that growing is a lot of letting go of some things that, no longer serve us. So it's all about allowing. It's about facing reality and learning to accept it first before we can make room for the new. Just as you need to clean out the closet before you bring new clothes in, or there's not going to be room to put them. When our hands are full of old things that we've been hanging on to, like old beliefs, old behaviors, old fears, maybe even old relationships that no longer serve us, we have to let go of some of those things in order to make room and allow for the new, because the new will not work with the old unless we do. All right, so before we get down into it, been hearing some great feedback about this month's episodes and hearing from you guys that the podcast is really helping you get some things straight with yourself. It's giving you the courage to make some changes, knowing that the rest of us are here for you. So I love that. So I just wanted to share that. All right, so letting go to grow. So if we got honest, we'd like to have status quo be just as it is, but also have all the wonderful things we want in our life. We want to have the freedom. We want to grow. We want to change. We want to be a better version of ourselves. And if we got leveled, it's kind of scary to imagine having to change some things in order to really grow. Because if it were that easy, you would have done it already. So I have some ideas about what it means to let go, but as you listen to this episode, I also want you to trust your heart, and whatever comes up and whatever resonates, trust it. All right. So if we're going to make room for change and we want to, let's say, try on a new career, use our gifts, put ourselves out there, take on a new challenge, change who we are in the world, how we operate in the world, there are some things that we want to focus on first, okay? There are always things that kind of get in the way of doing that. So the first one is making room for change means letting go of denial and facing the reality of now. Wow, there you go, right in your face, right? What I mean by that is like a surrender to not having control of all the outcomes, because here's the gig. We can't risk and try something new and be open if we're still having these absolute black and white ideas, perfectionistic ideas usually, of what the outcome absolutely effing needs to be. So we want to really take a good look at that and see how white-knuckled you are being around this. Because what happens is, and I was just talking to someone about this the other day, is that if you are so bent on a certain outcome, you're setting yourself up. My old mentor used to say, expectations are pre-planned resentments. You just set yourself up to be disappointed. As opposed to being open to some wonderful outcomes that maybe we hadn't even thought of yet. So it's risking the unknown outcomes. letting go of the what-if scenarios. Now, part of surrendering, I think, is also trusting the universe, right? Trusting the process, trusting whatever you believe in, and learning to be okay of it not being perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so who cares if you F up some things? Who cares if there are some wrinkles? What I would encourage you to do is focus instead on what matters more to you. Like, what would it mean to really honor yourself if you were to go do that thing? Like, for example, like really truly living instead of having perfect outcomes. You know, enjoying the process, the moments, the journey. You've heard that a million times. And I think really living never happens in the box that we create anyway, right? The joke is, you know, life happens when you're busy making plans. I think it begins truly when we climb out. We climb out of that box onto wobbly legs with our heart pounding and our fear threatening to take over. That's what it is. You push through the fear and you do it anyway because something's more important. The other thing is being open to all the wonderful possibilities, and it's okay that it may be different than you planned. As long as it's in alignment with who you want to be, and it doesn't go against your values or your core self, I just want to encourage you to be more open than you are today. You know, expand your thinking a little bit. Try to generate lots and lots of possibilities. Even if you're not sure, it's okay. If it pops into your head, it pops in there for a reason. You can trust it. If it enters your heart and it won't go away, it's there for a reason. That's all you need to know. Some people need to make contingency plans, and that's fine. You know, if you need to do that, if you need to have some savings before you change careers, that's totally fine. I tell clients, do the as long as sentence, where you say, you know, as long as I can eat, pay rent, I'm good. I also think embracing change means letting go of self-sabotage, and that is something we've talked about here before. Now, when we look at sabotage, I look at it as resistance. Resistance to being open, resistance to allowing the process to take you. And I think there are two types of resistance. I think there's external resistance. You know, maybe you're in not so great environments that really don't foster growth and being yourself. You know, we've talked about that in previous episodes. And I just talked to a client this morning about that. About if you are surrounded by manipulation and guilt or someone who really doesn't, you know, take care of themselves, it's going to be hard. The other external resistance is the fear of letting others down. And here's the deal. I mean, their lives might change too, right? They might be impacted, and that's okay. But that is something that can be a doorstop for people, and I want you to take a hard look at that and get honest. Like, how much of a change is it going to be for them really? And might it not be a healthy change? You know, don't do all or nothing. Kind of sort through that. Think about what you could negotiate out with them, what you can let go of, detaching from their choices, all that boundary work. That's why you did that in episodes previous to this one. If you want to do some more work on that, please go back to the boundaries episodes and sort through them again and see where you're struggling. So the other type of resistance is internal resistance, and that's ourselves, right? Our fear of failure and success. Maybe the fear that we can't trust ourselves enough to do this right and follow through and make it happen. Or maybe just trusting the process. Maybe life has let you down way too many times. People have let you down. And so it's hard for you to be vulnerable and open. So that's something I encourage you to take a long look at. Maybe do some journaling, some sharing with a trusted other around that. See what's coming up for you around that. Another area of internal resistance, which is a big one, we've talked about this before, and that's letting go of old beliefs about you and old behaviors, right? Even if you see them as crazy or irrational, letting go of them is like letting go of your Linus blanket. You might not be ready to. And finally, just all the little ways and big ways you've held yourself back, sold yourself short, and living less than you deserve. Now, if this pulls up a little anger inside of you, don't worry about that. Actually, that's kind of a good thing, because I'd much rather you be pissed that maybe you have sold yourself short than you be in fear. Because when you're pissed, you're in choice. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, hell no. That's better. That's more intrinsically focused and motivated, and that's more of your truth. Trust it. All right, so moving on. I think making room for the new also means letting go of what others think. Easier said than done, I know. Here's the gig, like we've talked about. If you grew up in a family with manipulation or guilt or shame for what you felt, what you needed, what you thought, or God forbid, what you asked for, it's normal for you to still be afraid of that awful feeling creeping up when others don't accept you. When we play it safe, we try to protect ourselves from rejection, ridicule, embarrassment, and abandonment. But remember, only unhealthy people or people struggling with boundaries and their own self-esteem and ways they have not lived their own life, they're the only ones that won't be able to support what is for your highest good. I know you know this intellectually, but I'm speaking to your heart. Look around your life. See who is in it, who has given you a hard time or tried to talk you out of things or pull you down. Look at where they are, not to judge them, but to understand they can't. They cannot support you. They're not the audience right now, and they're not the people that you go to right now and share all this stuff. They're just not in a space. You know how if you've ever had a moment in your life where you were jealous of somebody and how hard it was to be so excited for their accomplishment or their success or their good fortune? That's what I'm talking about. If there are folks in your life who throw a lot of fear and doubt your way, just let them be. Go somewhere else. See, healthy people don't make your stuff about them either, right? They may be afraid for you a little bit, and, they might be afraid of what change might bring and that it may pull you away from them. But here's the deal. They won't try to put all that shit on you. They recognize that it's both. They're a little scared on the inside, but they're also happy for you. They want what's best for you. And they see you as separate. And even if they start out a little freaked out, they'll come back and say, I'm so sorry. I want you to be happy. I want you to do you. How can I support you? I mean, that's more realistic. That's what you want to see. Manipulation is they put that stuff on you. Like, how could you leave me? How could you even want to spend money on this? How could you? How could you? How could you? That means they're making your stuff about them in a very egoic and self-centered way. They're not ready to support you. And remember, you're not responsible for them, only to them. So making room for change means letting go of the old version of yourself. At least those parts that have not been good for you. The ones that have held you back. And you can be a mixed bag and you're not crazy. It's okay. All right, so maybe this is probably the hardest part, right? Like if you want to think for a moment, if you got real right now, like what adjectives would you secretly think about yourself when it comes to making big changes, using your gifts, following your passion, being daring? All right, so let's go through some typical ones that people are worried that they are, or maybe they have been. And let's turn it over into something a little more positive, and like a bridge belief. You don't want to lie to your subconscious. That's never going to work. Like if you're late all the time, you can't lie to your subconscious and say, I'm on time every day. No. Yes, you have to make it a statement like, I really am working on being more on time, because that's more realistic. All right, so here we go. So the first one is undisciplined, because when you think about it, you got to have your shit together a little bit to get things done, especially if you're putting something new in your life on top of your current responsibilities. You're going to have to discipline your time. There's going to be less TV watching. There's going to be more effort being put into your new side hustle or this thing you want to work on. So I would encourage you, if you feel that way, to change it into a statement like, I am becoming much more disciplined and organized. Because that's true. You're in progress. You're working on it. You're figuring it out as you go. You're tweaking it as you go, like we've talked about. I think there's so much more hope in that statement. There's so much less shame and guilt and yuck. You can't shame yourself into good behavior, remember? And if you tell yourself you're undisciplined enough, you will play that out. Your subconscious is listening to you all the time. So I want you to start talking to it just a little differently. It's not trapping you into the perfect or horrible. You notice? It's I am becoming. I'm working on it. The next one, a never finisher, like, you know what I'm talking about, like all those projects that you got going on and none of them's finished. The new statement is, I will do one thing at a time, and I will bring the first thing to completion before I start the next part or the next thing. And that is going to feel so good because you just honored yourself. When you don't finish a project, you self-sabotage, right? And unfinished business, like we've talked about, is like an open app in your background, draining energy. It bugs you. You didn't get to that. That's between you and yourself. So committing to doing one thing at a time, not 52, is going to feel so much better. That's going to change, right? You're going to have to say no to yourself, and that's okay. All right. The big imposter syndrome. A non-expert. I'm not an expert. I don't know enough. I don't have enough training, enough experience to something different. And I want you to say, this would not be put on my heart unless I had something to give, something to create, and something to share. And it's not only about expertise. I mean, I bring so much heart and soul to it. I love this stuff. I bring my passion. And here's the gig. I'm going to continue to learn as I go anyway. And you can bring in the commitment to learn. You can join a Facebook group where you can learn from others. You can hire a coach. You can talk to someone who has more expertise or more experience than you. See how you just changed that. All right. The next one's going to sound a little harsh, a hider. And I call hiders the ones who hide their gifts, hide all their motivation. They stuff it, which of course comes out with like panic attacks and IBS and migraines and all that lovely stuff we've talked about. And I want to give you a statement like, damn it, life is way too short. And I don't want the regret of not doing all I can to use my gifts and feel alive. You're not ignoring your fear. You're just saying that life is too short, and I'm going to focus on that. All right, finally, a guarder of your heart. Guarding your heart. You know, maybe you're just too afraid to trust. Maybe you've been burned before. A new statement could be, I'm going to really focus on gathering some great, encouraging support, even if it's just 2 people. You know, if I have to join a group of like-minded folks, I'll do that. That way I have 1 or 2 safe places to grow with people who want that for me. Because here's the thing, I need to be vulnerable and honest with them. And that's true. You know, we got to put some boundaries around who we're going to share with. But when you share, you got to be open. You got to share your fears. You have to share your dreams. Remember, the fear, the wish, and the defense, right? It's like we have this wonderful wish. Then here comes that damn fear. And oh boy, here come all my defense mechanisms. Focus on the wish. Kick the fear to the curb. Get some choice statements going on like we just talked about. And I think you'll be nicely surprised that things are going to start moving in the direction you want them to go. All right? So as you can see, letting go is ultimately about letting go of fear. All of what we talked about thus far today is all fear-based. It's all fear-driven. Some of it's irrational. Some of it's based on experience. You've been burned before. Your subconscious categorized that and like, nope, we're not touching that hot stove again. The biggest thing we need to let go of fear, and I know that sounds really so easy and so trite and impossible, Mary, right? Impossible. That's what I hear all the time. I mean, if you weren't afraid, here's the thing, you would have already done this stuff. I don't think it's a good idea to deny your fear, because then you're denying yourself. That's not going to work. I encourage you instead to work towards replacing the fear for the moment with something else. Something of higher value. Something that really matters to you. Something you cherish, something you value, something you feel really strongly about right now. Remember, when someone hits bottom, something all of a sudden is more important than their resistance to change. Here comes a train coming at me. I'm sitting in a jail cell. Someone just walked out of my life. I got diagnosed with diabetes. I mean, all those things are bottoms that we hit when something else becomes a hell of a lot more important than the fear of changing at the moment, doesn't it? Hopefully it doesn't have to take that for us to hit the floor. That's how we let things get really bad. And then we're more reactionary in our life. And we want to become more and more proactive here. So let's get back into something being more important than your fear. I mean, you hear me talk all the time about the only way out of fear in my book is choice. It doesn't deny the fear. It just really helps you focus on what's more important than the fear right now. And that can change down the road. Just focus on what's more important right now. All right, so let's take a moment and look at some typical fears and some great choice statements you can use to get started. Now, come up with your own. I mean, this is just to get you started. You don't have to use these. I just want to get you thinking, okay? All right, the first one is typical fears. What if I don't have any success with this new endeavor? Of course. I mean, that would be everyone's fear that would pop up, right? A choice statement to replace that, like when that fear comes up, in the next moment is when you make the choice statement. Boy, I do not want to look back 10 years from now, seeing that I never had the damn courage to at least try, at least check it out, at least see, at least discover, because now I'll never know. Now, we've talked about regret before. Regret is about stuff we could have done and didn't, not stuff that happened to us. And I think it's because we had control. We had a choice. All right, so get that choice statement. I don't want to look back 10 years from now, seeing that I never had the courage to at least try and find out. All right, the next one. Wow, this feels so selfish. I mean, what if I'm being selfish? What if people hate me? A choice statement would be, what's really selfish is to not use my gifts. My kids deserve to see me happy. My partner deserves to see me happy. Denying myself and not following my passion, you know what? That just keeps me stuck and miserable. Is that what I want? Because I have to choose. I can't have both. So that I can't have both gets you out of compulsive fear, and you got to own the choice, right? You can't have it both ways. You either take the risk and use your gifts and risk feeling selfish, which we know it's not, self-care, or be miserable. Again, if anger comes up right now, that's all good. That's a good sign. It's a sign you're really getting ready to be ready. The next one, I might fail. God, what's worse is I might succeed and can't handle it. Here's a choice statement for you. Put this one on your bathroom mirror. I can't honor myself by sitting on my ass and worrying so much about the outcome. Let me repeat that. I can't honor myself by sitting on my ass and worrying so much about the outcome. I'd rather try than not like myself. Wow. There's a shift. And finally, I don't know if I can handle other people's criticism. All right, wow, here's one for you. I am so sick and tired of outsourcing my self-worth. Again, I am so sick and tired of outsourcing my self-worth. I am so ready to be me, just me. I no longer allow other people to determine who I am. Now, if you haven't figured out already, these are some great affirmations that you can write down and put them where you see them, say them out loud, tell your subconscious all day long. Some affirmative choice statements that work for you. I know some of these were kind of strong. I did that on purpose because I want you to maybe get angry. I want you to maybe get frustrated. We don't change until there's a fire under our butt. And anger can be a wonderful catalyst for change. We don't want to stay angry, but it can get our butt off the couch. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And like my good friend says, are you done? Are you done being miserable? Are you done being unhappy? Are you done with your anxiety? Are you done with your depression and all your physical ailments because you've been going against yourself? Now remember, we're all ready when we're ready. So don't come away from this episode and be hard on yourself. Accept yourself right where you are, but also dare to get some choice statements going for yourself. Allow yourself to at least admit and recognize things that you know you're going to need to let go of in order to have what you really, really want to have. Just write it down, make it real. You may not be ready to do it yet, but at least you did the first step and you recognized it. You made it true. They say, take just one goal statement, look at it all week long, see if your behavior doesn't become in alignment with it over time. Again, your subconscious wants alignment. It's not going to be cool over time with things that don't fit. I watch clients do this all the time. They look at one area of their life and they get that together. Then all of a sudden they come in and they're disgusted because now they're not happy with their career and they want to get that together. Then they want to get their health together and their house together. It will come. All you got to do first is really focus on your choice statement or what some people will call your intention. Get your intentions together. Get your heart behind it. Get some emotion going with this. And yes, you can get frustrated with yourself, but don't beat yourself up. There's a fine line, and you know what I'm talking about. And just start where you can start. Remember, put that at the top of the staircase, back it down to where you are. What steps do you need to start taking to get there? So today we talked all about looking at some things we might need to let go of so we can make the psychological room for really living in alignment with our true self. Now, I think that includes using your gifts. It's about taking a risk. It's about creating. It's about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. But remember, healthy people will embrace that and really love the real you. I want you to keep that in mind. Whatever you do with this process we talked about today, I hope you get into choice. Get some choices going that feel really good for you and own them and make them real. Make them visible in your life. I think choice is the one thing that will free you. Yeah, I know it's going to bring its own kind of anxiety, but hopefully you're going to look at it as excitement. Because if you're tuning into this podcast, I know that means you already have the courage to at least get started. All right. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. My hope is that you can take some good things away that you can use right away. May you stay healthy, grounded, keep holding on to hope. Focus on your choices, let go of other people's choices. And if you're not already signed up, check out the show notes at www.ownitpowercast.com for this episode 48. Sign up for the newsletter each Tuesday. You'll get the bonus downloads. You'll get to listen to the episode and all the other cool information. All right, so until next time, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next week.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.